Hey, how's it going? Tre'Leon Bay here. Today I'm going to be going over how you can start a business even if you have a full-time job. Okay, now this video is inspired by a coaching call that I did just yesterday, and particularly with this person, we were trying to start a business from scratch, going from having an idea, having a passion, and then having an idea and trying to turn that idea into a successful business. It's a process that goes along with that. So the business coaching call kind of turned into a life coaching call, and I incorporate all of them together because it's kind of hard to coach someone on business or real estate without incorporating some life coaching into there as well. Because what we really need to do is we need to be able to prepare for the responsibilities that come with being an entrepreneur, as well as the things that we're going to receive. We got to be able to make room for stuff that we're going to be receiving as an entrepreneur too. And so it takes a lot of work on ourselves and our life, even prior to us actually getting started and starting a business. Okay, so I'm going to write down 3 things that I feel like is totally necessary if you're going to be starting a business. And really, this is regardless of whether you have a job or not. But if you do have a full-time job, it's even more necessary for you to be able to be very strict and disciplined on what your planning is, and then also whatever you're implementing. You have to be even more stricter because you have less time to work with. All right. So the 3 things that I feel like you need are first, you need the right mind frame. You're going to need a particular amount of time, and this all depends on your business, whatever the business is that you're starting. And then you're also going to need finances, and that all depends on your business too. And with the finances, you have to be willing to invest into your business. And so sometimes we can have finances, whether or not it's a little bit, whether or not it's a lot, but we still don't want to invest it on the other side, the investment to make us actually free, and those type of things, we don't want to invest on that side. So these are the 3 things that I feel like you definitely need in order to either start a business, whether or not you're working a full job or not. And just to describe how important these 3 things are, I'm going to describe to you basically a situation and also a more of a detailed visual that maybe can help you to understand how important it is for you to be able to have these things right prior to you starting a business, and at least have them prepared in the right manner, in the right way as much as possible prior to starting your business. Okay, so let's say we have a all right, let's say we have an idea. That's what we're working with right now, right? We have this idea. Everybody starts off with the same place. You have this awesome, great idea, right? Everybody has this beautiful, nice, great, everybody's going to love it. And then you have the goal over here, the idea, and it turns into a goal. Either you want to make a certain amount per month, a certain amount of sales per month, you want to save a certain amount of people, whatever your goal is for your business, you have this idea, and then you have this goal. And then you have this space in between here, and try to figure out the steps in between, like how do I get here? How do I get from over here to over here? How you get from something like a thought, having a thought, and then all of a sudden making it manifest as something real, physical that you can touch, that's actual success in this reality. How do you go from one place to the other? And so if we're trying to get from one place to the other, let's use another example. If we're trying to get from one place to another, let's say we're trying to get to a destination, right? We're starting off here in the USA, and we're trying to find a way to get to Paris. All right, so we're here in the USA, and we're trying to find a way to get to Paris, right? So first we need a map, or we need directions to be able to get there. And so just using this as an example with business, for me, I have the map to get there. I've started plenty of businesses on my own, some more successful than others. I've helped plenty of people start businesses, revamp their businesses, expand their businesses. I've helped so many people that I know clearly when I hear something, I know whether or not it's going to be a success, whether or not that's going to be able to get you from that idea you have to an actual successful business. I know what that looks like. I know what it sounds like. I know what it's going to require, right? And so I have the map over here to be able to get from USA to over here to Paris. I already got the map. I got the directions. Know exactly what it looks like, right? And so we decided to do a coaching call, and I got the map to get there. You tell me what your idea is, you tell me what your goal is, and then I ask you, okay, well, how do what vehicle you want to use to get there? I mean, we have some choices, right? We can use a plane, a boat. We can't use a car. That's going to be out of it, so we automatically cancel that vehicle out. But you say, okay, I want to get there on a boat. I say, cool, all right, sure. A boat is definitely feasible. Idealistically, we should be able to take a boat from the USA to Paris, right? And so you start telling me about this boat you want to build. You're like, yeah, I got this great boat. This boat is going to be the most luxurious boat ever created. It's going to be huge. It's going to have this feature and that feature. It's going to blow people away, right? I'm like, yeah, that sounds like an awesome boat, right? What do we have to do to build that boat? And then all of a sudden, as we're going through building this boat that you want to do to get to your destination, I start noticing that your boat has holes in them, right? I start noticing that your boat has 3 holes in it, right? Or maybe your boat has 2 holes, maybe just 1 hole, depending on your boat and your situation, right? So we have a boat, idealistically supposed to get us to there or there, but if we have holes in our boat, what are the chances that we're actually going to reach the destination? If we have 3 holes in the boat, the chances of our getting to the destination is very, very slim, very slim. If we have 1 hole in the boat, and it's like a very small hole, we can still get to the destination. It's going to be a little bit more risky. It's going to require a little bit more from us. So what I would recommend always is to start off fixing the holes in the boat first before we try to take the long trip over there from the USA to Paris. Let's fix the holes in the boat first. And so that's a lot of times when I'm coaching people, sometimes it's hard to swallow. If you give me an idea and we map it all out and it's like a beautiful idea, we can get there idealistically, but there's some things that we have to work on first, and that's going to save us time, it's going to save us money, it's going to save you heartache if we can work on those things first, because like I said, I can see clearly what you need in order to get there, but then I also see clearly where you are. And I know that you have to fix certain things in order to get to that destination, right? So an exercise that I would do to assess, your mind frame, your time, and your finances, just a general idea, because it'll probably take me to be on the phone with you, go through exactly where you are, because everybody is totally different than the next person. But just generally, to work on your mind frame as far as starting a business, the biggest mind frame, what it comes down to, guys, is the commitment. So, really I didn't spell that right, huh? Really the commitment is the biggest thing that, as far as mind frame, that I can say if I had to choose one thing as far as the mind frame getting that together, it'll totally be your commitment. I know one thing when you have working a full-time job, naturally we give ourselves, we give everything to this full-time job, right? We give our time, we give our personality, we give our thought process, we bring it home sometime, go to sleep on it, So our number one usually is that full-time job, because that full-time job is what providing for you at the time, is paying your bills, so the employer kind of knows they got that pull over you, and so usually your number one commitment is making sure that money coming in for your full-time job. And so it's hard for you to transition over from a full-time job to an entrepreneur when you know the money isn't coming in. You don't even know when the money is coming in, and so it's a little bit less secure in your mind. It's all in your mind, because you could be less secure at work. But in your mind, you're thinking it's less secure, and so your commitment isn't there. You kind of think like, okay, maybe this business will work. Hopefully it worked. If it worked, that'll be great. Maybe I should do it. I don't know. That's starting. If you're starting off with this mind frame, you're not going to get to that successful business. You're not. Your mind frame got to be 100% total, 200% commitment, to the point where you're willing to sacrifice this job right here. This job is no longer the number one priority. Your business becomes your number priority. You, yourself, becomes the number one priority. You're no longer giving everything to there. So if it comes down to you have a choice, sometimes you might have to choose your business over your job, or your business over, going out and having fun, or your friends, or even sometimes family. It's a lot of commitment and sacrifice that's required with your mind frame. And if that's not there, if you're starting off business shaky from the door, then I can tell you it's going to be a very low chance of you making it, and you're probably going to quit going along and waste a lot of time and money. But when you get to that point, where it's like, it doesn't matter how long it takes, it doesn't matter how much I spend, it doesn't matter what it requires to get there, I'm going to get there. This is going to happen. It doesn't matter any of that stuff. I'm willing to put up my house. I'm willing to put up everything in my pocket to be able to make that happen. When you're at that point, that's when all of a sudden this commitment drives you to the goal. That commitment literally drives you to get there. When you have that undenying factor, it doesn't matter what it takes, I'm going to get there. It doesn't matter how long it takes, I'm going to get there. You can't go on and think, okay, I'll try this business out for 3 months, maybe 90 days, and if it doesn't work in 90 days, then I gotta quit. I gotta call it quits. I can't survive off of like that. You can't go in there with that because you're going in with a failure mind frame already. All right, so that's one of the big things with mind frame is where's your commitment at? Are you willing to sacrifice everything for this business that you're about to start? And it has to be that deep here, passion-wise, in your why, in order to drive you forward to actually reach the goal. Also, with the time frame, what you want to do is you want to, come up with a schedule. A schedule that works around your work schedule. So say you have a 9-to-5 job, right? And say, let's say you have another type of job. Let's say you work from, 3 p.m. to 12 a.m. on Tuesdays to Fridays. So what does that leave you, right? You got Mondays, and you got Sundays off. And then you also have right here in the early parts of the day, if you wake up at 9 a.m., you go to work at 3, that gives you about 6 hours. 6 hours for those 4 days. And that's still idealistically, because if we want to be realistic, we want to be as realistic as possible when we're making the plans. Realistically, you're going to have to eat in between here. If you have some kids, you're going to have to deal with that type of work. Some other, prior commitments that you have. This is going to be broken down. As well as these Mondays and Sundays when you have off, those hours aren't going to be able to be all the way 100% to the business either. I mean, if you look at it on a day, you can't devote 24 hours of your day to go towards your business, so that's not going to happen. And then even when you try to think, okay, I'm going to take 8 hours and I'm going to devote it to my business, that's even tough. Like, you really have to be a very disciplined and focused person for you to take 8 hours of focused work on that task to be productive with actual income producing activities. It's super tough. And so realistically, I would say just 4 hours out of that day is probably the time frame that you're going to be working, actually focused on the task that's going to get you results. Probably only 4 hours out of these 2 days, for real. And that's just being realistic. And so we got 4 hours out of these 2 days, that's giving us 8 hours here. And if we say we got 6 hours, that's 24, let's say 2 out, take away a couple hours out of that, but let's just say 20 hours on a good day. So 20 hours, that gives us 28 hours for the week. So out of that 28 hours, you have to be super duper committed, guys. You really do. I mean, if you're having this full-time job, you don't have a hobby anymore. It's not a passion. It's not a, none of those things. It's a true business, a full-time business. It's not a part-time, none of those things. You have a full-time business, and now you have a full-time job, and now you have a full-time business. And you're literally going to have to commit to that business full-time to be able to make that happen. So even though it's, say, 28 hours a week, if you have some time, even when you're at work, you're going to have to be putting that work in for yourself. All right, you really will. So you're going to have to go over that 28 hours and work in as much time as you can, but you're going to have to be very strict, more strict than the person that doesn't have a job. When it comes down to scheduling, how your schedule work, what time are you going to be doing your actual business, work those things out and be very strict with yourself, have accountability from someone that actually helps you to stick to that schedule, and start committing, to yourself and to your business and taking away from other things that aren't getting you to that goal of freedom. All right. Then also what we have here is the goal. And so when your financing. And so when you're assessing your financing, like I said, guys, it's going to require an investment with any type of business that you have. It doesn't matter what it is, whether an investment in more time. You can play with some of these things. Like if you have more time than finance, you're still going to need some finance, but you can put a little bit more time in to compensate. Mind frame is really hard to compensate for that. I'll be honest. You're going to have that. And you're going to have it first before you achieve everything else. Literally, I can give you the whole game plan, the whole map. You can do exactly what I say, and if your mind frame isn't there, even though you did exactly what I did, you still won't have the same results just because your mind frame isn't there. So that one is important. But you can kind of compensate time and financing just a little bit, but it's still going to require financing from you. It is, guys. There's no way around you having to invest into your business. You have to, and you'll have to invest. If you have $20, you might have to invest $12 and survive off of $8. And that's the commitment that you're going to have in order to make it happen and get success with it. All right, so with the financing, you're just going to have to really invest everything that you can. Everything that you have, you're going to have to, actually go down on some of the things that you pay for on leisure, or you're going to have to create a way that you can actually get more money. And there's all types of ways that you can go and borrow, get credit cards, bank loans, and loans from people, whatever it takes. With the financing, you may have to go out of your comfort zone and start to get financing from sources that you have to borrow money from in hopes that you pay it back later. And maybe you can't pay it back later. Maybe you borrow more money than you can actually pay back in the time frame that you thought. Those are some of the risks that you have to take with business, like you will. And so you'll figure the financing part out. If you know that you need $1,000 to make $5,000, you're gonna figure out how I can get that $1,000 a month if I want to make $5,000 a month. Okay, you just have to figure it out, and that comes from just the straight desire to make it happen. It's always a way if you have the will to make it happen. Okay, and so with all of this, guys, the thing that I want to leave you with is that you have to be willing to give to yourself. Okay, and it can be hard sometimes. It can be super hard to be willing to put yourself first and to be willing to give to yourself. A lot of times we can we have a lot of stuff going on, right? You have you, and then you got the kids if you have kids. Then you might have the spouse if you got the spouse. Then you got work over here. Then you got health. You got friends. You got other commitments. Right? You got all of these things, right, that's working and a lot of times what we do, we start weighing out where are we going to put our focus at most. We know right here with work, a lot of us, like I said, we put work number one because that's paying the bills, and we're willing to sacrifice friends and health and kids sometimes for work, right? And so it's all about, reprioritizing. And then a lot of times we'll still have the kids here, and we'll have the kids be number one sometimes, and we're willing to sacrifice everything in order to make our kids happy. But what we forget a lot of times, we forget to put this right here number one, in order for all of these things to work the way it's supposed to. You got your business here. In order for all of these things to work the way it's supposed to in your best interest, you have to put this number one first. All right? Because a lot of times we can take our skills and, we got these wonderful skills that can make us so much money and create so much freedom and fulfillment for us, but we give it all our skills to someone over here at the job. Everything that you do, you're giving it over here to someone else creating their dream. Or all of your love that you have all this love and you're giving it over to your, all of it to your spouse, all of it to your kids, and you're leaving none for yourself at all, Or your personality, you have this big personality that's so nice, everybody wants you around, your friends love what you're around, right? And so you're giving all your personality over here to your friends, and you're not leaving anything for yourself in order to create freedom, because that's what it's about, guys. That's what I'm about. Everything that I do revolves around how can I make it where I have as much freedom as possible. Freedom of time, freedom of money, freedom of mind frame, freedom, okay? And so if you're giving everybody all of yourself, then you will never be able to depend on yourself. All right? Like you literally won't be able to depend on yourself. You'll be dependent on everything else outside yourself for you to be able to function, because you didn't give enough to yourself to depend on yourself. All right? And that's what I want to leave you with at the end of this. And I'm hoping, guys, if you actually want to link up with me, I'll leave a link for an application for one-on-one coaching with me. And if you're really serious about getting to a destination or receiving a breakthrough or actually like building something from scratch, even if you don't even know what to build, I can help you to do all of those things. And so if you seriously do want to work with me, I'll leave a link below. Other than that, see you guys later. Peace.